What's up, friends? We're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron.
What up? What up? It is your girl Dehjai.
Hello, friends. As always, our beauty and drink details are down below in the
Yes.
comments or the description box. Dehjai has our
So,
topic for the day.
absolutely. So today we're actually talking about the disillusionment, maybe,
Yep.
of Devon Franklin and Meagan Good. Kind of sad to see it because she literally talked about in the early stages of their courtship that this was like God had spoken to her and this was the man for her. And then they had like this fairy tale wedding and like this whole seemingly fairy tale relationship for I think they were together maybe 9 years.
9 years, yeah.
And in the last 2 weeks of the year, they both released statements onto their social media about them divorcing. And it was literally like copy and paste the exact same statement. On the YouTube streets, there was some religious commentary going on about the speculation of their demise as far as the relationship. And one of the things the young lady talked about, allegedly there's an interview floating around out there where Devon basically states that Meagan was everything that he did not want in a wife, but he proceeded to move forward with her anyway. And then here we are on the other side of it. So like this conversation is not going to be a bashing of Meagan Good because I don't feel like that is necessary. There's nothing to bash about the girl. We're just kind of having an overview conversation similar to that of the conversation we had about Jeannie Mai and her decision to get married again after saying that she wouldn't, and then also have a child, or be with child because he's not here yet. But the similar conversation nonetheless. So my question to Kandron was like, what do you think about that if you're on the other side of a relationship with someone and like there's all this commentary around him, what he didn't want, and you being that, like how would you feel?
I wouldn't feel good about it. I don't think. I guess my thing with this situation is twofold. First of all, it seemed like Meagan, she was in a space in her life when they met, because I remember a lot of the press about how she was celibate and how this seemed to be like where she was in her life, and she was looking for something more substantive as opposed to you know, fly by night, I guess, of what she was dealing with before. Mm-hmm. And so I think that maybe they were just what they were for the moment. And that moment was long. It was 9 years. But also like people, I'm careful not to think that relationships ending is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I am very much of the belief that you can have a good time together and you can have a successful relationship together and it also be over. And I think that maybe it was what she needed in the moment, and she still has things that she would like to accomplish. She's still acting. I can't really tell what he does, and honestly, I don't pay him that much mind, to be completely
he's
frank.
Like a producer and a film producer and something else in television, which is how they met.
Right, but it seems like he's like extra churchy and probably going to end up being somebody's pastor at some point. And so,
pastor.
I
think he is a pastor.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. I don't pay him that much mind, but it could just be that he's moved to a different stage in his life and he's ready for something different, and she is not wanting to be, you know, a certain type of church first lady / just very churchy like that. Like she's still acting, she still has friends, she's still out in the streets. Not like, you know, out there, but like, you know, she's still, but yeah, she's still living. I've seen pictures of her online with Tiana Taylor, which again, like that's what I mean. But like Tiana Taylor looks like her marriage is lovely. Like she's having a great time with her husband.
Because they
But
were properly matched
right, for where they
and
are
are
right now.
seemingly, properly matched.
Right. And for where they are right now and where they were back then. But um, maybe it's just not a match anymore. And I think that is okay. And I'm happy that these two people have decided to not torture each other for another 9 years and to have decided like this isn't working. Let's move on.
Yeah. I totally think that like that goes back to our conversation that we had about the right to change your mind.
Definitely.
And that you should do that when it's best suited for who you are and even your relationship,
Yeah.
For me, I feel like I would, because I feel like the conversation where he stated that she was everything that he didn't want, I feel like that those things came about prior to the demise, like early on, like him just
Yeah.
talking about how they met and like she being opposite of what he was asking God for, and how, opposites do attract.
Yeah.
I think that
Also,
if
I'd like
I
to hear
were,
that quote in context because the whole everything I didn't want, because sometimes people follow that up with like their what I didn't want, but what I actually needed and blah, blah, blah. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like that seems, I don't know, that quote seems,
just as, um, for me, even in the early stages of our union, if that was to have been said about me, I wouldn't feel good about that either. Like, but because I feel like I did see this conversation, because there was a lot of, he caught a lot of flack early on in the beginnings of their marriage, because at that point I believe that's when they had really gone public.
mm-hmm.
And he is or was a huge a piece of the One Church LA with Torre and Sarah Roberts. And I think that's where he spoke about this. I'm gonna have to find this interview. If I can find it, I'll put it in the comment section.
Yeah.
But they had like this conversation around like all the things that you think that you want, and then someone comes across your path that isn't necessarily all of those things, but isn't also isn't like the match in terms of like it's everything unimaginable, like things that you didn't know that you could have wanted, but like you said, you needed.
Mm-hmm.
I just, knowing like the public persona, like history of them, I feel like a lot of the early stages of their relationship, he was defending his wife, because you know how the church is, they are very judgmental. And they were saying all types of derogatory things about Meagan, and like how like you gonna turn, basically like the gist is like you turning a hoe into a housewife because of how she had presented herself to the world years before they had even become a union. I think a lot of that played, and this is just personal speculation, I believe that a lot of that played a part in the demise of their relationship, because he started it off by saying that she represented a lot of things that I didn't want, with her being an actress and her being in the industry, and like those are the things that I can remember from that interview. And then constantly having to defend your choice to your people, like as it relates to like the religious aspect. And then I also speculate that it could be part of the demise of their union is him wanting to have children, and in 9 years they never did. And it could be that Meagan is like Jeannie, in that she didn't necessarily see herself with children, and she might have never saw herself with children with Devon Franklin.
Yeah.
And that only remains to be spoken upon if she chooses to do so.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The kids think so careful about that because you never know. Like maybe they did try and it just didn't work out for whatever reason, you know?
yeah,
So I'm careful about that. But I think there's this a lot of times people think of it as like an outgrowing of other people, but I just think that it seems like these two people have just grown differently. It
Mhm.
seems like when they met, she was very much like I said before, celibate and very much like on a path to reaching her higher purpose and her spirituality and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And we both know, like, sometimes you take a hard pivot, but then it kind of softens over time. And it could
Mhm.
be that,
I have.
correct, that's what I'm saying. And it could be that she has, softened over time and realized that she can take some of those hard edges off of her spirituality and still feel at peace with who she is. And throughout the relationship, we've seen like her profile has kind of diminished a little bit in
Did.
terms of like, we haven't seen her out, we haven't seen her in a ton of movies, we haven't seen her on TV, we haven't really seen her
Period.
um
Until
until
Harlem.
Harlem, which we've talked about. We haven't seen her since Harlem, and it could just be that she realized, like, okay, it doesn't mean that I have to be in the house all the time. Like, it doesn't mean that I have to be like only talking about, God and Jesus, and like I don't have to just go that path. Like, I can still engage in my passions, and it could be that that's not something that he's really interested in, um or interested in, having his wife be interested in.
Hello. And it,
Or
like,
supporting or whatever, or he's just looking to grow differently and get maybe deeper in a spiritual practice, or and is looking for someone who maybe is ready to be more settled and in one spot and not jetting off to go film movies everywhere, and that's fine.
he's
I
a
think it's
film
just a
producer.
different,
And he's
it's
still
just
filming.
different. Hmm?
I'm like, he's a film producer and is still out here working on his projects and filming and carrying on. I think, and I speculate, a lot of it is just, um, as you already stated, like a growing in different directions.
Yeah.
And also, what I speculate is like the commitment. So I've had this conversation. I feel like I had this conversation on here, but it's something I talk about with my coaching clients, about the commitments we make to ourselves and the obligations that we have to other people, and how those two things will, if you are not in alignment, those two things will collide in ways that have you very, very, very uncomfortable. And I think that too, I speculate that too is what happened. Like, he had a commitment to himself to potentially be with a partner who wasn't in the industry, who was aligned in terms of like wanting to settle down and be married and to, whatever his belief of traditions are, like. And he met someone that they went along together well, but she didn't necessarily, and this is speculation, she didn't necessarily have those aspects of the commitments that he made to himself. And over a 9-year period, like, which is like a cycle ending basically, you realize like, damn, here I am 9 years later, and like all the things that I thought I would have had, I don't have. I'm not even on the brink of obtaining. Like, he's made major moves as far as his career has gone, but maybe like his personal life, looking at, he's written a couple of books, and he's done some other, speaking engagements, some major speaking engagements and things. He's even been on Oprah. But like personally, he doesn't have that legacy. And maybe, this is all speculation here, I could be totally wrong. Maybe he doesn't want to have kids, but I feel like the persona that he's presented to the world, he gives me, daddy. Like, he gives me, I want to be a parent, a father.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I think it can be just you can think you're on the same page, you can be on the same page, and as time evolves, you can realize that you're not. You can realize that you are growing in different directions. You can realize that one person feels career is more important and the other person feels family is most important, when that wasn't the case when you first began. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, in the spirit of our previous conversation about the right to change your mind, it's like, if it's not working, then you should just not anymore. Like, And if it's, especially if there are fundamental, huge differences, I think a lot of our society has been conditioned to believe that a
Mhm.
successful marriage is one that lasts forever. And honestly, maybe a successful marriage is just the ones that teach you the most about yourself.
Child, I feel like we get in the conversation right there. Kandron dropped the nugget. Okay, mic drop.
I mean, I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to be that deep. Honestly,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
agree with you.
So
I think you learn what you need to in your most significant and intimate relationships. And
absolutely.
this may be that for the two of them. And I wish them all the best, honestly. Like maybe one day they'll find their way back to one another. But at this juncture, this just seemed like the best move for the two of them.
And I'm happy that they made it. And they seem to have made it with peace
Yeah.
and with peace with each other. They're not on the internet talking shit about each other. They
Probably
released
falling again.
right. They released what seemed to be a joint statement, and they are moving on. So
Yes.
congrats to them, honestly. So
Yes. Shout out to you all giving us a glimpse into what amicable separation could look like. Because at this point, it seems like it's amicable.
seems like it is.
Um,
So, anyways, get down in the comments. Let us know what you think about this divorce, but just in divorce in general. Hell, uh, let us know what you think about growing differently with your partner. Have you had any of that experience?
What do you do? Like
yeah,
if you still love the person and you want to work together as opposed to grow apart, but you're aware that you all have grown in opposite directions. Like, how do you rekindle that flame?
yeah. Let us know what you think down in the comments, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Haters.